thrilled to be here with you today as we honor 6 local women and girls in sports and hear from a World Cup and an Olympic athlete. And thank you to my good friend Brenda Van Langen. Brenda is working so hard on this amazing documentary. So to support and learn more about the documentary series on the history of women's basketball, please check out If Not For Them. Thank you for all you do for women's sports in our community. Thank you. So I've been involved with Win for KC for over 25 years. First as a volunteer, then as a participant, a donor, a board member, and now a staff. I have seen firsthand the impact WIN programs have on young girls. My 2 daughters participated in Camp WIN both as campers and then as team captains. They both are now leaders in their own careers, in part due to the enormous impact Win for KC had on them. Please watch this video to see how our mission is continuing to ignite the lives of women and girls.
All a flame needs is a spark. With care and attention, that flame can ignite into fire. A fire that will fuel a lifelong blaze of passion. A love for sport and for community, standing on a foundation of determination and empowerment. It can start with one moment at Camp WIN, one shared experience with a teammate, or a moment of resilience that leads to success. As each young girl grows, she fortifies herself with a healthy body and mind through reading and fitness challenges and exposure to opportunities through athletics. She can find a place of acceptance at Strong Girls to sharpen her life skills and build confidence. That confidence turns into leadership as a junior captain or captain at Camp WIN. And that calling of leadership continues with the Thrive KC High School Advisory Board, a chance to continue to pave the way for the younger girls. We celebrate women and girls for all they accomplish and all the barriers and walls they push through. We shine the light on Evelyn Gates winners, high school state champions, and women of all ages. Through local sporting events like the Revel Run and the Kansas City Triathlon, we toast to the joys in life that unite us.
This community understands the value of sports and what it delivers for girls and women in terms of confidence and understanding what you're made of and how you can push your limits and how you can connect with other people.
We want all women to succeed, to matter. What officially began in 1994 to empower women through sports and athletics has become a quest for thousands, spanning 4 decades, a journey with endless possibilities. Win for KC. Win for life.
So our entire staff, our advisory board, and hundreds of volunteers work behind the scenes to make our Win for KC program successful. But as we look to the future, we needed a leader. And I'm pleased to announce that we found a great fit, and next you will hear why. It is my pleasure to introduce Ruth Feldblum, our new Win for KC director.
Hello and welcome, everyone. It really is a beautiful day, isn't it? Despite maybe a little bit of snow, but that's not going to stop us today, right? So, like so many others who've stood here before me, I have always been an athlete. I fell in love with soccer. You see, that's what my big brother played. And like any good little sister, I was bound and determined to be just like him, only a little better. The problem was there were no club teams for girls close by. Now keep in mind, Title IX had already been in place for a number of years, but I had a champion in my corner. My dad, he signed me up to play on a boys' club team, and off I went. So I was fortunate to play on a girls' team in high school, but I did end up refocusing in track. You see, my Division I university didn't have women's intercollegiate soccer back then. Now, at this point, we're already 15 years after the passage of Title IX. So I share this as a reminder that we don't have to look very far back for a time when the opportunity to play sports was actually quite limited for girls. So I'm grateful for the trailblazers who had the vision to make Win for KC a reality and to grow it into the impactful organization that it is today. And now I have the honor of carrying that baton to help make sure that every girl has more opportunity than I had. So 2022 saw major changes in the landscape, but we can't forget these changes are years in the making. Female athletes are benefiting from NIL, the name, image, and likeness in college sports. U.S. professional soccer associations agreed to equal pay in 2022, just a mere 50 years after the passage of Title IX. The U.S. House passed the Equal Pay Bill for Team USA athletes, and that's impacting more than 50 national sports. So the landscape, it is changing, but it doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't happen without intention. 2022 was a big year for WIN as well, so we continued working with our female high school athletes on our Thrive board, on their leadership and life skills training, and you've probably seen many of them here today. Our Strong Girls program brought together middle school girls and female college students for weekly mentor sessions over an entire semester. Now, the connections in this program, they are strong and the benefits run deep. Camp WIN was back in full swing with over 1,000 campers and youth leaders sampling 12 sports within the framework of our Live Active curriculum. There's so many new young athletes, and our campers and captains alike are building their foundational skills while making memories that will last a lifetime. In July, we sunsetted the WIN Triathlon, which ran for 20 plus years, but this made way to launch the Boulevard Revel Run in the fall. We closed the year celebrating 50 years of Title IX with our Everyday Forward panel. We highlighted the past, the present, and the future of Title IX. WIN would not have that celebration of champions you just saw if not for the work of women like Patty Dick, Marianne Washington, Karen Daniel, Ray Pond, Kathy Nelson, and so many others. WIN was built with a strong foundation, and we have amazing core programs. But there's always more work to be done. We will continue to explore the barriers that keep girls and women out of sports. We'll embrace new partnerships to expand the WIN experience through those who share the WIN mission. And for those amazing triathletes out there, you can start planning now for that winning experience at the Kansas City Tri in May. But if the Kansas City Triathlon isn't in the cards for you, just go ahead and get those BFFs together for the Boulevard Revel Run on September 30th. So with so many great things happening, there are plenty of opportunities to get involved. You can participate in upcoming WIN events. You can sign up as a volunteer. Of course, you can make a donation. But for sure, get out and support events like our Big 12 women's basketball tournament and the Kansas City Current and the Kansas City Glory. This is an investment in our future. Each new program with each new participant helps shape tomorrow's leaders. And with your support, we'll continue to impact girls, women, and the Kansas City community.
Now, the 6 awards we are about to present are inspirational, they are barrier-breaking, and they are all courageous. The UMB Lifetime Sportswoman Award is presented to someone 55 or older who encourages participation of girls and women in sports and is an athlete herself. Patty Dick has been a champion of such for more than 50 years, and she created programs when nothing else existed.
When I was a 5th grader, I had a progressive principal. We would eat lunch in the gym, in the bleachers, and watch the boys play basketball. So I went to him and said, why can't girls play basketball during lunch hour? And he said, well, you can. So I organized players and we got to play basketball during lunch. I thought, this is great. I can do this for a career. I just need to ask people and they'll give me permission to do it, and it's done. My life didn't turn out like that.
You had those years of a lot of struggle and a lot of resistance.
She knew what she was after, and she would do what she needed to do.
I met Patty in 1972, so we go back 50 years. She was teaching and coaching at Washburn Rural High School.
I started at Washburn Rural High School in Topeka right after I graduated, and started the girls' sports at Washburn Rural. I started volleyball, basketball, and track and tennis. We had no uniforms, so we wore our gym suits. And in basketball, for numbers, I used bookbinding tape.
She had to take bookbinding tape, make the numbers, stick them on the uniforms. She had to wash the uniforms for all the girls.
I had to pretty much do everything.
Equal pay. You know, it took her 15 years for equal pay.
I protested and said that I should be getting paid to coach. Our men coaches the next year would not get a raise. The raise they were going to get was my salary. Now, do you think the men coaches at that time were really happy with me? I went to Washburn University, and I was the first full-time women's basketball coach.
I played for Patty from 1982 to 1984.
She recruited me out of high school back in 1980. We knew there was struggles. We always knew there was inequities, but Pat didn't, bring that to our table.
We were very aware that this law was in the works, and we would write our leaders in Congress and ask them to pass Title IX.
My senior year, we're at Pittsburgh State. If we win this game, it puts us up one game in the conference to win the first ever conference championship. The score's tied, 12 seconds left, and Pittsburgh State has the ball in their end of the court. Stole the ball, came out around, and from three-quarters court, right before the buzzer, the ball was in midair.
It swished. We look over trying to find Pat, and she is on the floor. I think she was just in shock and thought, oh my gosh, Lord, how did we pull that one out? And it was a miracle.
She made me a better player, a better person, and wanting to do more for my community.
From 1971, when she began, to when she retired, what she accomplished. Wow.
I'm really proud that my parents raised me the way they did. If I made them proud, then that's what I'm proud of.
The Forvis Wow Award is presented to those making an impact on women and girls in sports. With their rise from the first-year program in 2021 to playing for the NWSL Championship just 1 year later, the KC Current players are currently wowing people from across the country.
Shot from distance! I've been the one, see them in the two. And is that the goal to take down the semis? Kansas City Current win the Central Division.
When we got our training facility, that's when our unbeaten streak started.
There is the final whistle. Kansas City have won 3 straight games. They've moved their unbeaten streak to 7.
It's now 9 games unbeaten for Matt Potter's Kansas City Current. Kansas City Current unbeaten in 10.
The 12-game unbeaten streak, the longest streak in the NWSL this year.
A game-saving stop from A.D. French.
The players need to be able to focus on their game. They need to have the tools around them to make them as good as they can possibly be.
This is the standard that is set now, and the whole entire world from the top clubs, it's time to tune in and see what KC Current are doing.
To be able to walk through the halls for the first time, there's very few moments when you feel lost for words.
And there's certainly a very clear mission for our club, which is to be the best women's soccer club in the world.
This stadium is for Kansas City, the best sports town in the world.
It'll be the first thing you see as you drive into Kansas City. It is spectacular setting.
Off the goalkeeper and in. Hamilton looking, shooting. Hamilton, 2-0. We will play no more. The Kansas City Current are on their way to the NWSL Championship. Congrats to Kansas City.
First and foremost, you have to be bigger than any one game. Wins and losses don't define you who you are, and wins and losses don't define who you can be.
It's all about momentum. I think you can feel that within the players on the pitch, the organization, what's to come. I just feel like the momentum, Teal is rising, and the city's behind us, and we're just getting started.
Let's go. I don't think anybody will sleep on this team anymore. The future is so bright for this team for sure. You know, we were in last year and we turned it around immediately with investment and people buying in. It's because Kansas City showed up.
Our own women's national football team, the Kansas City Glory, is also making strides in professional sports. The Hallmark Leadership Award is presented to an inspirational female leader. From Camp Win to an NCAA All-American to a professional football world champion, Krishna Lee not only considers our speaker, Brianna Scurry, as her childhood hero, she herself is the perfect example of how today's athletes become tomorrow's leaders.
I grew up here in Kansas City, pretty active, playing out in the streets with my friends all the time. I did martial arts for 11 years. Then I got into swimming. Then I started basketball. Size wasn't really an issue, but like skill, not good. I remember my mom going, maybe we should try another sport.
Softly suggested that she may want to try another sport.
That just kind of like lit a fire, and I was like, oh no, I'm not trying another sport. Like, I'm playing basketball.
Luckily, she didn't listen to me.
My basketball coach was talking to another teacher and said like, yeah, Krishna could be a D1 athlete. Like she's a really good athlete. And it was the first time I'd like had that thought. My dad was a track coach and I was like, yeah, I'll go be a thrower. And it worked out. I went to Mizzou, went to the Olympic trials in 2008 for shot put. Did not have my best meet, but that's all right. But I had that opportunity, the setup to make a national team, to have USA on my chest. And when I retired from throwing, I was like, dang, there goes, like that dream's gone. I moved back home here to Kansas City and I was playing soccer, indoor soccer. And again, I'm not a soccer player. It just ended up being me like pushing someone up and down the field for 30 minutes. And at the end of that, they were a football player and said, hey, we have tryouts this weekend. And I was like, I can play football? I'll see you there.
My first time meeting Krishna was on a football field. I remember looking at her and thinking that she was one of the most well put together athletes that I had ever seen on a football field.
Krishna is a leader by example, and it's so contagious that you can't be around her and not want to step up to that same level.
My dad and my mom always were like, if you're not leading with your actions first, it doesn't matter what you say.
What's most impressive to me is how she has stuck with sports and athletics as long as she has until she finally got to where she really was trying to go, which is to compete for Team USA.
There were a little over 200 women there trying out for 45 positions. Found out I made it and was just like, yeah, now I'm actually living this dream.
They let the clock run down, and that will do it. The United States over Great Britain, 42-14.
There was like so much emotion of like, oh my God, we did it. I did it. We've won the championship. We won the gold. And then there was also a lot of like, oh man, like this particular chapter of my life is over. I remember thinking, this is exactly how I want to end my career.
Please direct your attention to the GEHA deck in the West End Zone as we celebrate tonight's DePardo Spirit Leader, gold medalist from Team USA Women's Tackle Football, Krishna Lee.
She takes the drumstick, she swings it around her head, and the crowd is going crazy. And I was just like, that is so Krishna.
Being able to stand up there and say, I'm here, I'm a woman, I'm queer, I'm all of these things, and I'm standing in front of you being able to beat this drum.
Every single time she hit that drum, she was exuding this, oh my God, I finally did it. Her reference was how important it was for her to show little girls that they could do it too.
The pandemic provided opportunities we never thought possible, from working remote to finding unique places to work out. The Children's Mercy Kansas City Rising Star Award is presented to a young woman who figured out how to do all of that with the help of content creation and connections. Reese Bates has unique leadership qualities and is making a special impact on our community.
When I was growing up, I played basically every sport possible. I did a lot of swimming, tennis, triathlons, ballet, and then I started to get into volleyball.
She really enjoyed it from a young age. Her mom played, and one of her mom's best friends that was the coach kind of sucked her into playing and just, fell in love with it.
I was just really, really small compared to everyone else on the volleyball court. When I first started, it really taught me to work twice as hard, produce twice the results, and make half the mistakes.
When I first met her, she was really small. I think she had the dream, but it was physically, she was so small, could it happen? But she really, she had such belief in herself.
I knew that I was smaller. I knew that I had more work to do and to get better and make myself the best that I could be.
It's all hands on deck to address the coronavirus pandemic on the state and national level.
During COVID, I saw some things on Reese's Instagram to practice with.
During COVID, she generated a ton of buzz.
I have over 1 million views on a few particular videos.
Carrie Walsh was definitely the biggest. When she commented back and started following Reese, it was pretty magical.
I started following her on social media and fell in love with her in about 2 seconds because she's so sincere and so eager and so authentic.
Just because she's active on social media and has the followers, it kind of organically becomes where these younger kids look up to her.
Even if I helped one person, that's still one more person that maybe I shed light to or helped.
She is very inspiring because she is really hardworking. I see her in her garage and I see her on Instagram working really hard.
She works her butt off. I've seen her do ladder drills in high heels, like before a dance, I think. When I watch her on social media, even now, it resonates because I'm a volleyball player, because I want to be a champion, because I do things to optimize my life, and I'm always on the go. And Reese kind of captures all of that. You can tell very clearly her priorities and her dreams.
I've always wanted to play in the national championship in college. My biggest goal since I was 8 years old is that I decided I want to play either indoor or beach volleyball in the Olympics, and that's what I plan on doing and working for. And I also just have always had the goal of inspiring young athletes to chase their dreams and to know that they can do it.
The Locked in Courage Award is presented to someone who is redefining barriers despite physical or mental challenges. Katie Zorns is proof doing something for yourself can unexpectedly impact millions of others.
All right, let's see if we can do this without the cat interrupting.
I'm Katie. I'm doing 22 hard things in 2022 to prove to myself that I can. Earlier in my life, I had lost 180 pounds, and I proudly posted it to social media. Look at me, look what I accomplished. So when I started gaining that weight back, I felt bad. So by 2021, I was in a very dark hole, the darkest hole that I had never been. It's not about doing more. It's about finally crawling out of the space where I believed I was no longer capable of doing things that I loved.
Katie has had a lifetime of stress.
My mom got cancer when I was 15 and died that same year. Throughout that time, I was really struggling badly with depression. I was not aware of what it was doing to my thoughts and how those thoughts were ultimately impacting how I treated myself.
She was courageous when her mom died, and now she's approaching her health in a holistic view.
I woke up and realized one day that I was trying to accomplish the same things that 25-year-old Katie was doing. I was like, Katie, you gotta meet yourself where you're at. And where I was at that time was brushing my hair every day. That was one of my main goals every day. And doing 10 minutes of intentional movement. It was a good day of movement for us, no matter how funny we looked. And I hope it was a good day for you. Slowly started getting this confidence back, and that started to excite me because that's where I was crawling out of this dark hole, because I could start to see the light in things again.
It would be easy for her to become consumed with the thoughts in her head of, I'm not good enough, or I don't have the courage to do this today, and she does it anyways.
As I started to see the light, that's when I came up with the idea for my list. I want to take a class. I want to run a 5K. I want to make goat cheese with our goat's milk. But I wanted it to be things that ultimately were going to contribute to me feeling better. I want to complete a 10K. I want to sew a bag using my sewing machine. I want to make vegetables star in my meals. I think even when I was in my lowest moment, even though I didn't believe in myself and believe in what I was capable of, I could look at someone else and know that they were. I've always wanted people to know that they're strong and capable and worthy. And I want to see people win, I know that you can do hard things, and because I know you can, it makes me believe that I can do hard things.
I don't know if she knew the impact she was going to have in empowering other people, but it's there.
It means a lot to me to have the privilege, I guess, of being able to share my own story and get to know others through that.
Her story is so powerful, and I'm so happy that the world has discovered her in this way.
She has been a very stable source of love for so many people.
Ultimately, if you have hope and a single ounce of courage, you can do the hard things.
I want to say thanks. Thanks for being here, and let's do this.
The Kissick Construction Game Changer Award is presented to someone who personifies the true spirit of sport, not only as a participant, but as a supporter, promoter, and champion for others. Anna Searle is teaching the importance of a more accessible, more diverse, and more inclusive community through sports.
I did gymnastics for about 8 years, and I got to the level 8, and that's pretty close to Olympic level.
It was nice to watch her excel as she got older, and we really thought she was destined for the Olympics even at a young age.
I've always thought that I wanted to be representing my school in a sport. I was 4 days into practicing, and then on August 20th, 2015, I peeled off the bars. I landed incorrectly. It was a freak accident, and that left me paralyzed from the waist down. I experienced the full spectrum of human emotion at that point. When you're at that level where you're at your peak, and then suddenly doctors are telling you you're never going to be able to do that sport, and now you lost your ability to walk. It was hard. It was very hard.
The thing that I noticed immediately about Anna is the humongous support system that she had around her.
My mom and my dad, they were my biggest supports, and same goes with my siblings.
We did a variety of fundraisers for Anna. I think Olathe Northwest did a tremendous job of that. Everybody really jumped in and was huge support to Anna, her family.
I I went through very intense rehab where I was inpatient for a month at Children's Mercy. And then I decided to take that rehab to the Rehab Institute of Chicago. And we stayed there for 2 months away from my family, which was very difficult.
Anna Kirsten Searle.
She told me that she wanted to walk at her high school graduation, and I was like, okay, we've got this, we can do this.
She did it. And that was the loudest round of applause all night. I'm not gonna lie, I got a little teary to see it.
I looked out to the crowd and I took it all in, and I saw all of my classmates and friends on their feet clapping for me. And that was pretty encouraging to see.
But she's like, okay, well, what can I do now? And that's when she started to change her mindset and be able to be like, okay, so how can I start inspiring people through this?
I think my perspective shifted when I saw that there was a disabled person who is a lawyer, who is a doctor, who is a dancer, who is an athlete still. I am now a college graduate, and I just graduated with my bachelor's in psychology. The first sport that I attempted was wheelchair basketball. And then I tried monoskiing on snow, and I tried monoskiing on water. I also tried wheelchair tennis. Wesley Hamilton built an adaptive CrossFit program. This adaptive space had floor that I could easily push through. It had space for me to get by and equipments that were set apart enough for me and another wheelchair user to be side by side and just talk and, socialize. I knew that I wanted to pass down my knowledge of being a gymnast. The head coach for the Olathe district reached out to me and wanted to see if I would be interested in taking on the role of being a coach.
She had first place and second place in the state of Kansas this year, and she's a tremendous asset to our school district. We're lucky to have her.
She's been one of the biggest advocates for disability.
She's definitely breaking barriers. She's showing people that just because you may have a challenge physically, it doesn't limit what you can do in something that you're passionate about.
My whole life's mission is to normalize the conversation of disability so that we can, destroy and dismantle these misconceptions and stereotypes. That makes me excited, knowing that there are generations to come that are going to be living in a world that's more accessible, more diverse, and more inclusive.
We are proud to support the Win for KC mission and this incredible event. And what an amazing honored guest we have this year. We are so excited to welcome Brianna Scurry as today's keynote speaker. A member of the National Soccer Hall of Fame, Brianna is known for one of soccer's most talented and influential goalkeepers. She made 173 international appearances for the United States that led to a World Cup and 2 Olympic gold medals. She was a founding member of the first professional women's soccer league. She overcame a traumatic injury to become one of the nation's foremost thought leaders, and she is a permanent feature in the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture. Her story is chronicled in her memoir, My Greatest Save, and her feature-length CBS documentary, The Only. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Brianna Scurry.
Watching the impossible made possible, watching Jim Craig literally spin around on his head and wanting to be an Olympian. And I remember as Al Michaels counted down 3, 2, 1, do you believe in miracles? And I jumped off the couch and I said, I believe in miracles. And I said, I want to be an Olympian. And you know what? The interesting thing about that is, and I'm so grateful to this very day, is when I said I want to be an Olympian, and my mom and dad were both sitting right there. I know a lot of you in here are parents, but I am so grateful that they didn't say certain things, which I'm sure if your kids, you might think, well, honey, maybe that's not exactly the right thing for you, or, it's really, really hard to be an Olympian and whatnot. But thankfully for me, my mom and dad were supportive. They took that little seed of inspiration that I had, and they nurtured it. They watered it. They supported it. And they said, honey, you can be anything you set your mind to. You can be an astronaut, you can be a doctor, you can be a lawyer, you can be a teacher, anything you want, a CEO, and you can be an Olympian. And so they went to work with support, taking me to training sessions all the time, letting me play just about any sport. I asked them if I could play. I played so many different sports, basketball, softball, I ran track, I played field hockey, I played floor hockey, I played soccer. When I was 12 years old, I brought a little flyer from school home, and I brought it to them, and I said, Mom and Dad, can I play soccer? Can I play soccer? And they were like, yes, honey, of course you can. So we went. They got me signed up and registered, and at that point, I was running track and playing soccer also. And when I was around 12 is when I started playing. Now, that's really late, obviously, as we all know. Many of you in here who've won awards today started playing soccer or whatever your main sport was very early compared to myself as the late bloomer. And so I remember playing on a boys' team my first year. I was the only girl on that team, and my coach thought it was a good idea to put the girl in goal because he thought that would be safer for me. I'm not sure where he got that idea from, but I was grateful, and I played, and I had a lot of fun, and I continued to play. And when I was about 13, 14 years old, I not only played sports, but I also did art. I painted, and I liked to draw freehand, and I made this sign. I took an 8 by 11 inch piece of paper, and I sat on my bed, and I got my ruler and my pencil out, and I wrote on a piece of paper, Olympics, 1996, I have a dream. And I made it exactly, perfectly measured the letters and the numbers, and I shaded it, and I made it just the way I wanted it, and I put it up on my wall next to my bed so I could see it every morning when I woke up and every night before I went to sleep. So day after day after day, Olympics, 1996, I have a dream. And I chose 1996 because I figured I'd be my early 20s, and that would be a great age to be an Olympian. And I believed in it, and so did my parents, and so did my coaches and my teachers. And as I grew up and I continued to play all these different sports, I was a 4-sport athlete in high school. I played soccer in the fall, basketball in the winter, and I rotated between softball and track in the spring. And I remember being very, very intentional and very focused on all of my sports because I knew in order for me to be able to go to college, I would have to get a scholarship. Now, why would I need a scholarship? Because although my family had a ton of love and a lot of support, we did not have a lot of money. And I knew if I was going to even have a shot at going to college, I was going to have to get a scholarship, and a big one. At least very close to a full ride, if not a full ride, because my family could not afford it. So I worked really hard. I hit those books academically. I was intentional. I was focused, and my sports as well. By the time I was a junior and senior in high school, I had 70 schools interested in me playing mostly soccer and basketball at their institutions, but all 4 sports actually. And so I decided, I narrowed it down, and I decided to go to the University of Massachusetts. Now, little did I know at the time, although my club team coach, Pete Swenson, was a huge part of my life, playing from U14s to U19s with him and his assistant coach, who was also the dad of a player, and so was Pete. He helped me figure out my college dream. He helped me figure out and navigate all of that stuff. And little did I know, and I found this out with my book research, that Pete coached for free, and he also did an amazing service to me and my family. He paid every single season for me to play. He made a promise to my mom and dad he would not tell me. And so when they both passed away, and this last year, Wayne Coffey and myself wrote my book together, we asked him, because I had an inclination that he probably did that, but I didn't know. And he admitted that, yeah, I paid for you every year. And so not only that, but he helped me get into UMass, which is the college I eventually decided to go on. He talked to the coach, Jim Rudy, there all the time, pushing him to recruit me, to offer me a full scholarship. And I get a little emotional about it because I launched my book last year and got to see Pete on my book tour. And he was one of my biggest allies. And unfortunately, I found out actually right before I came here that he passed away. He had cancer of the esophagus, and he passed away. So after I leave you fine folks this evening, I'll be flying to Minnesota for his funeral next week. But I felt it important to mention that because Pete supported me my whole life as an ally. And he wasn't family, but he was family. And I'm sure all of you in here who've made amazing gains and inroads in your careers, you've had people help you, and you know exactly what I'm talking about, that it takes more than just you and your family to get where you want to go. So I go to camp, 5 out of 5 on the totem pole. And then I have my first week. It goes well. They invite me back. They invite me back. They invite me back. I went from number 5 to number 1 in about 4 months. And then all along, I'm trying to do my best there and play on this team, and I keep getting invited back. And of course, I'm number 1 keeper now. But things are happening. Exciting things are happening that I didn't know anything about, really, that had nothing to do with me directly. Women's soccer was allowed as a sport in the Olympic Games, full medal, the first year. Guess what year? Anybody know what year? 1996. And then this happened. This. The little girl that wanted that gold medal, the little girl that made that sign, found herself on the podium at the Olympics in 1996. 1996, just like the sign. And then I found myself still on the women's national team in 1999. As you know, Brandy takes off her shirt after she scores that game-winning goal in the shootout. Yours truly made the penalty kick save on the third kicker. And we won the Women's World Cup in 1999. And then after that, I made some very interesting choices, gained 25 pounds in the off-season, and promptly lost my spot. I was drinking my own Kool-Aid. I lost my spot and only played 3 of 41 games in 2000 at the Olympic Games in Sydney. and we got silver, which is fabulous, and there's a reason the silver medal isn't here with me. My father loved it, and so I buried him with my silver medal. In 2004, when we were training for the Olympic Games again, he had kidney issues. He had his leg amputated below the knee, and he passed away 2 months before the Olympic Games in Greece. And I was in the room at the hospital when he passed. And I was grateful that I was in that room with him. And as heavy as my heart was, and I was torn in 2 pieces, being so excited about being at the Olympics again and losing my dad right before it. But the good news was my mom was able to attend and go to Greece for those Olympic Games. And then we did this. This is, the 2004 Olympic gold medal, and this I won from my dad. And I tell you what, I made some saves in that tournament that I can only describe as divine intervention, if you know what I mean. And that's when Abby Wambach became Abby. If you saw that game against Brazil, she had that majestic header, and oh my word, gives me chills just thinking about it. And I played a couple more years on the women's national team until 2008 when I retired. They go so nice together. And in 2010, I continued to play club soccer with the Washington Freedom. And I was playing in a game against the Philadelphia Independence, and there was a shot taken from the left-hand side. And I went out to get it like this. And the attacker came and tried to stick her foot in front of me. I did not see her. I did not hear her. She smashed her knee into the side of my head. And we both bundled over. And my first thought was, did I save it? I did. I had the ball. I stood up. The referee didn't call a foul. He's like, come on, Keep, let's go. So I kicked the ball out, and I thought it was so weird that I kept going like this. And the names on the backs of the jerseys were moving around like that, and they were fuzzy, and I was in the goal like this, and I knew where I was because of the signage, but I didn't know where I was because I knew where I was. I just knew because I was playing in a uniform that I was playing in a game, and I just kept walking around like this in the goal, and the ball came once, and I was like, whoa, and I almost missed it. And then the whistle blew for halftime. And I'm walking off like this to my trainer, and she comes out, and she takes my hands, and she says, are you okay? And I said, no. And that was April 25th, 2010. And I haven't played soccer since. And that was the end of my career. I didn't know, but I had suffered a concussion, a very bad one, in part because I didn't see her come, so I couldn't brace. And she hit the temple, which if you know anything about concussions, that's the worst possible place. For the next 3 years, I went on a downward trajectory. I had emotional issues. I had anxiety, depression, insomnia, sensitivity to light, sound, movement. I had all these issues. I ended up moving to New Jersey. I couldn't work. I couldn't figure out what was going on. I kept getting misdiagnosed. I knew I wasn't okay, but the doctors couldn't help me. They wouldn't help me. They didn't know. They just kept saying, you should be fine, you should be fine, and I knew I wasn't fine. By 2013, I was at my apartment building in Little Falls, New Jersey, and I had a waterfall, I don't know, 50, 75 feet up, and it had just rained a lot that day and the day before, and the waves were rushing. And I went to the edge. and I leaned over the railing, and I thought to myself, what if I just go in? And I can't swim. So I knew I wouldn't survive it if I did. The only thing that kept me from going in was a thought in my head of my mother, who helped me win both of these. The police knocking on her on her door to tell her, when she's battling Alzheimer's late stage, that her baby was gone. That image out of nowhere came. And I stepped back off the ledge, and I went back to my room, and I started to focus on doing one thing only, similar to one of our award winners when she said that she was going to do 10 minutes of movement and brush her hair. I started to think like that. I'm like, okay, I'm in a bad place, and I need to just live one day at a time. So my thing was, I'll just go for a walk every day. I was self-medicating with alcohol and Vicodin. It was really dark time. I was suicidal for several months. And then, out of nowhere, I was thrown a lifeline. One of my very good friends, who was also my ex, had a conversation with this woman. Her name was Krissa. She had this conversation at the dinner table. My friend, Naomi, told Krissa, who owned a PR firm, that the insurance company was not doing the right thing by me. And Naomi, on her own, and I knew nothing about her having this conversation, said to Krissa, do you think you can help my friend? She really needs help. And Krissa said, sure, have her call me. So I didn't call her first. And then Naomi would call me, and she said, Bri, did you call Krissa like I told you? I said, no. She goes, if you don't call her, as soon as we get off this phone, I will not speak to you ever again. And it scared me, because I didn't want to lose the only friend that I felt like I had that knew me before my concussion. So I called. And I told Krissa the whole story about how I felt, about the insurance company sometimes paying me, not helping me, not giving me the surgery that I needed, not letting me see the doctors I wanted to see. And she said, I will help you. So she called my lawyers and said, tell the insurance company if they don't do the right thing by Brianna, I'm going to go to the USA Today, CNN, Good Morning America, and explain to them how this insurance company is treating a champion like a piece of garbage. 2 days later, they paid for my surgery. They decided to do whatever they needed to do for me to see the doctors I needed to see, and I was crawling my way out of that hole. I got the procedure I needed that was experimental, and a year later, after therapy for all the issues I had, I became an advocate for concussion awareness. I've testified before Congress, I've written different bills, I've done speeches like this and talked about the emotional side of the story. I became a face for concussion awareness and an advocate and someone who was deciding to be more than it just happened to me. I decided to make this mean something. Does that sound familiar to you? One of the award winners said earlier, this needs to mean something. I need to see how I can make this be a positive thing. Five years ago, June 2018, Krissa, the woman who owned the PR firm, and I were married. We are married. I have now done a book, a documentary, a podcast. I speak all over the country to amazing people like you, to corporations, organizations. I helped my teammates and Cindy Parlacone, who's the president of U.S. Soccer Federation, get equal pay. I've done so many different things because I held on and hung in there. And I had allies who were helping me. I had the community that was helping me. I did not do all this by myself. And I stand here in front of you today to say thank you all for being here. And thank you for all the people who are caregivers. And thank you for all the people who are supportive. And thank you to all the fantastic athletes that are in here today that inspired me. All you young ladies that stood up here on the stage and did your parade. All the award winners who have come forward and gotten your awards. Thank you, all of you, for inspiring me today to be more than I have ever been. And thank you for having me and allowing me to share my journey with all of you. Thank you.
Wow, 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 wow. Casey, baby, wow. Brianna, thank you for being here today. Thank you for sharing your story with us. That was unbelievable. And thank you all for celebrating women and girls in sports. I think we have a new friend of Kansas City now, even though you don't live right here, we consider you one of us. So thank you. Brianna will be sticking around for a little bit to sign autographs in the new theater, which is just off the main entrance where you came in. Thank you again for being here. Thank you to our sponsor, Burns McDonald, as well as Monarch Build, J.E. Dunn, Heartland Coca-Cola, Nebraska Furniture Mart, Blue Cross Blue Shield, and all of our sponsors for making today happen. Don't forget, you still have time to donate. We hope that we see you at one of our events as a participant, as a dad of one of our campers, as a volunteer. Show up for Kansas City and show up for women and girls in sports. And no matter what you do, stay involved, be active, and celebrate all that our great city has to offer. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your day.